In this video, we're going to start looking at the edit page over here. Now, this is generally used for editing instrument parameters. However, we're going to start by looking at this top strip over here, which is called the part strip. And this, conceptually speaking at least, is more part of the multi than the instrument because the parameters that we edit here are not stored with the instruments. They're stored as part of the multi. Now, I'm going to start by playing you a little region that I have programmed up here. And it's triggering a marimba sound, and you can see the velocities here, and I have some notes accented and some unaccented. Now, let's say I want to double this with some other instruments. Maybe I want to go for something like a bassoon. I'm going to go to the Miroslav Philharmonic 1 library, which it's important not to overlook. There's still a lot of great sounding samples in here in this original library that Miroslav Vitous did. And I like particularly some of the percussion in here, but I'm going to start now with woodwinds and go to the solo woodwinds and bassoon. And I'm going to take the double forte sample. Now, if I play it, we'll hear some of the notes, but the range isn't going to be right. Let me switch it to the same MIDI channel. So I want this to sound lower. It's too high a range in this middle part of the treble clef. So I'm going to go to the edit page, and we can set parameters on a per part basis here. So we select the part over there, and right now I'm working on part 2. So some of these parameters we can actually set on the play page over here, like for example, the MIDI channel, the volume. If we go over here, we'll see the MIDI channel's already been set to 1. But we can also adjust the volume. If I want it lower here, you'll see I've just lowered it a little bit. And if I look on the play page, you'll see that it's reflected there as well. And same thing on the mix page for part 2. It's down 4 dB now. So here, these parameters that we change affect the part in the multi. It's why it's called the part strip, and it's stored with the multi. So we can set the polyphony for each part, the number of voices that it will sound simultaneously. In this case, we don't need a lot, but that's where you set it. And we can transpose. And this is what I want to do. I want to transpose it down an octave. And let's hear what that sounds like. That's more in the range. Let's try going down 2 octaves. We can also set a note range if we want it to only trigger within a certain range between C-2 and G8. Now, for these types of orchestral sounds, I don't find it that relevant, but we can limit the range here because when I say not relevant, most of the time we want these playing in their playable range, and that's it. But you can edit it there. And same thing for velocity ranges. They can only be triggered within a certain velocity zone if you want to set it that way. And we can adjust the panning here and volume that are reflected in the other pages as well. And when we click the zone button, we can edit the parameters uniquely for different zones. Now, in this case, all of these are one zone. So if I edit the parameter, it's going to edit it for the whole instrument. But many instruments have multiple zones, so we can treat their parameters independently. And of course, we can solo and mute here. So let's go, and maybe I want to double this now also with a piccolo way up high. So let me go, and I'm again in the Philharmonic 1 library, and I'm going to go to solo woodwinds, piccolo, and we have a key switch one, but I'm going to go with just a regular one. And let's load that in there, and again, put it to MIDI channel 1. So let's go and transpose it up higher now, maybe 2 octaves up higher. So there we've used the transpose to have these play in their playable ranges of those specific instruments, but all reading from this same MIDI region. Now, maybe I want to limit the range that I only want the piccolo to play on certain notes. So let me limit it to maybe the higher end of the range. I'm going to go up to maybe C4, and we can use the control key to move in finer increments here. So it's only playing in the upper range there. Now let's go back and add another instrument here, and we'll look at a velocity-based modification that might enhance this part. So again, in Philharmonic 1, I'm going under percussion, and under full percussion maps, or no, under chromatic percussion, that's what I want. I'm going to go to the metal plates. So let's load that in, let's listen, and again, switch it to MIDI channel 1. So again, you'll notice these parts update for each, or these parameters update for each part that's selected, not only the icon, but these settings that I have here. There's 2 transposed down 24 cents or 24 semitones, and here's 3 up 24 semitones with the note range. And now for part 4, I'm going to limit the velocity so that it's only playing on these accented notes. So let's set the minimum velocity to be around 119 or so that it's only going to trigger on those upper range or upper accented notes. Let's try that. So that's a way of using the part strip to edit your multi. As I say, conceptually, it would make sense if all these parameters were here, since they don't pertain to the instrument specifically, but more to the multi. But they're on the edit page, and that's the part strip. So I'm going to end off here, and in the next video, we'll continue looking at other ways of editing on this page which affect the instrument directly.